This is the 92nd episode of the Effective Executive podcast and YouTube channel. And I actually got a comment this past week that inspired me to uh, look at the subject I'm going to talk about in this episode, which is, how to combat organizational entropy. And first of all, entropy is a gradual decline into disorder. And a simple example outside of an organization is a campfire that will ultimately burn out if no new wood is introduced to the fire. And I'll use that example later when we talk about how to fight entropy. But how does entropy show up in organizations? How do you know you have entropy going on? Well, one, you're going to see competition amongst employees, whether it's around pay or recognition or appraisals or resources or any of those things. Employees are going to have this internal competition going on where they can't they're not focused on the bigger picture. They're focused on themselves and what they can get out of the system. Second thing is control. Micromanagement is very prevalent. You follow that procedure, follow those rules. In management is one of the things that will show up, and the blame game. You know, somebody's got to be the fall guy for whatever happens, even if that isn't the person that really had anything to do with it. Most of the time, it has something to do with the system that you're working in. And then there's the bureaucracy that you see in organizations, and this gets back to kind of the micromanagement piece, which is following the process, follow those rules, and then that manifests then into for employees into problems with morale, fear in an organization, and what you start to see is the system that you're working in begins to deteriorate when you have these things at work. It's like the fire going out in the campfire. So how do you fight entropy? Well, there's three primary things that I'll focus on here, and one is you have to have a clear aim or purpose in your organization. So, if we take the campfire example, um, you know, if the aim or purpose of the fire was to keep warm or cook food or just for enjoyment or maybe all three of those things, then you kind of understand what the purpose is of keeping the campfire going as and making sure that it can achieve the things uh, that people are expecting from a campfire. And then the second thing is you're managing to the principles. So the first thing is to find out, with a campfire, what was the purpose of doing it? A lot of times, like I said, it's more for enjoyment, but sometimes you roast marshmallows and make s'mores and, or maybe you need it because it's cold, on a cold, fall or winter night, you need that campfire. So for me, it's in essence what you have to do in organizations is you have to understand what those principles are, and you get those from understanding customer in to your organization. Develop what I call a customer creed, and that is what are the things that are important to a customer? What are the principles that you're managing to that help you achieve the purpose in your organization? So the customer creed, in this case, if it's around all three of the things we just talked about in campfire, have something to do with enjoyment and cooking food and keeping warm, if those are the three things that are important, or one of those three things. But the only way you do that is by understanding purpose and listening to customers to come up with an aim or purpose for your organization. The third thing is for employees, when you have entropy and things start to deteriorate, employees usually know, um, unless they're caught up in some of these competitive things around resources and pay and recognition and all the things that I mentioned earlier. But they've got to have the freedom to change the system, whether that's processes or rules or whatever. They need to have the ability to make decisions about their own work. So if there are changes in customers calling in, especially important for the front line, contact center agent knows a lot about what's going on a day-to-day basis, and if there are changes in customer behavior or the you learn things from customers about what competitors are doing and or whatever, and if you're not reacting or uh, being knowledgeable about what those things are, you can really fall behind. But the frontline people already know. By the time management gets their report or someone trustworthy, I don't know. So sometimes I hear that from executives. Well, I was waiting for somebody, that was important, in our organization to tell me what was going. Everybody's important in your organization, dude. So, uh, from that standpoint, it's not about who carries the weight. It's about what's actually happening in your organization. If you set up a system where people can react to some of the things that are going on or think about them at the front line level, then management job then becomes to remove the barriers to allow those things to happen, as opposed to dictating from a report or data or something that you really can't get the feel or the see associated with the right actions to take. And often they just come way too late, and then the fire's out, so to speak. Uh, so employees are the ones that need to be able to uh, help executives come to the conclusion about when to throw wood on the campfire, if you will. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. I'm short, making this a little bit short. I probably already noticed I have a cold. Again, every 9 months or so it seems. But I think it's more allergies associated with the kind of the weather we've had in my area. But anyway, that's what I wanted to cover this week on how to combat organizational entropy. And just remember, there's always a better way.